Well, hello everybody. Happy Saturday. This is a slightly different to normal what happened this week. It's much more about where are we going next, because this is the last day of May, and then we go into June. And in the old days, people used to say sell in May and go away. But as I argue, we lost 2 months due to the tariff tantrums. But I'm going to look at a whole bunch of data today and try to figure out, is it time to go away, or do we have bright skies ahead? Thank you, TND, Tesla, and Sean Donnelly for coming, and everybody out here. Hey, Robbo, Polly, the whole gang. Yeah, Bitcoin is truth. Look at that. Share that. Oh, evening. The mic say, where does he Bitcoin is truth? Who's up there? Oh, that's the name. That's from Bitcoin is truth. I like that name. All right, let's get into the story. Hope I got the deck set up. Here it is, what happened. And we'll go pretty quick, but there's some nuggets here that are kind of special. And thank you to everyone on Patreon as well, not financial advice. This is the last 7 days against Bitcoin. Binance and Hype did well for many reasons, but a lot of other stuff was kind of read slightly off for the week. And in terms of returns for the week, Bitcoin down 2.4%. Everything kind of just flatted down, but nothing too crazy, with the exception of some of the other stuff, the dark red stuff, which we don't even talk about here on the channel. But what exactly is going on? The stock market was up for the week, crypto down. We had the Bitcoin conference, which people thought was crap. Many people did anyway. The feedback was terrible. Glad I missed that one. Anyway, in fact, I've never been to a Bitcoin conference. But everything was pretty good. We did have the big scare on Thursday and Friday with the China tariff scare. Markets did take a dip, but they rebounded pretty fast. And overall, stocks, AI disruption were up for the week. Now, another cool little historic chart is the Bitcoin price on this day, May 30th. This is kind of fascinating to see. If you look back at the years of where we have come from, that's always interesting. This goes back 15 years. $9 in 2011, $5 dipped, and then up, dip, up, up. Wow. So up. So between 2015 and 2021, Bitcoin went up every single May. Interesting. And then we had down 2022, down 2023, and then big up 2024, big up in 2025. The question is, what's going to happen next? Are we going to run out of steam? And that sets the tone for where we go next. So there's a couple of things. We do have the Bitcoin May monthly close happening in T-minus 4 hours, ladies and gentlemen. 4 hours to go before the monthly close. It will be a green candle. How high it is very important. I want that green candle to be above the other ones that are kind of 3-4 months ago. Very important. By the way, when you go back to the bottom of the bear market back in November 2022, wow, it feels like yesterday, doesn't it? At least to me. Time flies when you work every day. But when you look at all the candles, there are 14 green candles and 13 red ones. So it's like a 50-50. But what is important is the size of the candles and then the compounding effect of those candles as well. So a lot of people believe the monthly close is very important. And the question is, will we get a third green candle? So let's have a look at some history. Summer doldrums, everybody's always afraid of what happens next. But if you look at history, this is from Bitcoin Magazine Pro, you'll see here, June is net positive, not a big one, about 2% for the year. July, typically over 10%. And August, 2%. Again, history. September is the worst month for Bitcoin, down 2%. The question is our whole cycle shifted because of the 2 months we lost because of tariff tantrums? I think so. I do believe so. Now, if you pull out the bear markets, again, courtesy of Bitcoin Magazine Pro, you see a little different picture here. What you see here is there is no negative month. When the bear markets are excluded, the performance of Bitcoin in every single month, including June through September, turns positive on average. Even September which is the worst month, becomes profitable, up a smashing 0.37%. We'll take it. And October is alone boasts a strong average 26%, making it one of Bitcoin's best months after, of course, November. Huge 61% in November. Don't we like Moonvember? Yes, we do. And October? Yes, we do. And December, everybody gets ready for Christmas. And the snow comes. So the point I'm trying to make here in a long-winded way, don't freak out about the sell in May. I didn't mean for that to rhyme. But let's get into the story. This chart is super interesting. This is from S. Minston. And what I like about this is I love Z-scores. I spend a lot of my time playing with Z-scores. And it's funny because when you're a kid, you hate statistics. But then when you're a grown-up and you find out you can use statistics to make money, you actually grow to like them again. Very bizarre. Anyway, who would have guessed? But a Z-score measures how many standard deviations a data point is from the mean of a data set. And in the context of this is the Bitcoin price integral Z-score chart. I think it's based over a 700-day average. I'm not quite sure, I guess, from analyzing the chart, but it applies the price integral over that period to gauge Bitcoin's price deviation from its historic trend. Now, we are exactly at the stage where we are at the flat-ish part of the bull run, okay? It may not appear that way, but remember, this is a Z-score over time. In fact, a little bit down. And if you look at the little bit of a down tail and where we are right now in May 2025, that gives some people concern because a lot of people think the bull market's over. And when Bitcoin hit 75K a few weeks ago, everybody, I think 20% of people packed their bags and went home. The question is, where do we go next? So if history repeats, this is probably one of the most interesting charts you will ever see because every single time we have the green, then the yellow chop, and then the big red spike, and then the green, and then the yellow chop, and then the big red spike, and then the green, then the yellow chop, and then the big red spike. And here we are again. Fourth time is a charm, I hope. The green, yellow chop, which will be coming to an end soon. And do we get that red spike? All right, I'm going to look at some data now that'll tell us maybe we will. Okay. So first of all, a little bit of bad news. BlackRock broke their 31-day streak of massive inflows. They sold $430 million worth of Bitcoin on Friday. Remember, they pulled in 481 on Wednesday, 125 on Thursday, 409 on Monday. So not a big deal. Nothing goes up forever. And this is a breather. Maybe it's closing the books. Maybe the hedge funds reversing a carry trade before the end of the month, getting out. We'll see. I'm not too concerned about this because the craziness is, this is from Nate, this puppy, IBIT, pulled in nearly $70 billion in 17 months, okay? And yes, we had a historic run over the last 31 days. But one day to stop and take a little breather is normal in the market. In fact, it's highly abnormal to have 31 plus days of pure straight inflows. But that's just the ETFs. And also, we had 230,000, nearly 250,000 Bitcoin in new demand. Okay. And I do believe the long-term outlook remains very bullish. And on-chain data, though, does suggest maybe a little pause before the next run. That's what typically happens. We got back to a new all-time high last week, and it's consolidating a little bit. We also had some other factors. We had the Bitcoin conference. Always after conferences, there's a run-up into it and then a sell-off after it. But those other factors in play too, like the market makers going after James Wynn. Hope he's doing okay. We'll talk about him in a second towards the end too. But Crypto Quant here says that Bitcoin demand has grown again to that 229,000 Bitcoin over the last 30 days. And we're nowhere near, though, the peak of 279,000 we had in December of 2024. And that did mark a little bit of a local top. But the question is, as I've analyzed before, the rate, thanks Adam, the rate of acceleration of acquisition of Bitcoin is going up. It's accelerating. Okay. And Bitcoin whales have stacked 3% in the past month. And we'll see where we go next. But what makes me very bullish is some of the following. This is the MVRV score for Bitcoin. And this will tell you, looking at on-chain metrics, the MVRZ score remains structurally very healthy, and we are not even close to a peak of the cycle. And the current market setup shows that Bitcoin still has considerable upside room remaining if history repeats. Okay, again, if we're looking at previous cycles, this tells us we will not get near where we're supposed to get to until October or November of this year. So hang tough. There could be a little bit of chop over the next 2 weeks or so, but after that, we should continue upwards. Now, this is why. Right, I'm going to share some data that is absolutely mind-blowing. When you look at the money coming into Bitcoin compared to what retail could ever do. In fact, I think retail have sold 250,000 Bitcoin this year, but the ETFs and the treasuries have more than bought all that up. It's crazy. But the Bitcoin ETFs over the last 30 days have bought 111 times issuance. Shout out to Huddle 15 Capital. 50,000 Bitcoin. I calculated that as 111 times the 450-day daily issuance. Bitcoin ETFs alone. And then Huddle 15 has this little list, saves me from making it. It's great. Strategy, $54 billion of dry powder remaining to buy Bitcoin. The Trump token, whatever, DJT, have just raised $2.5 billion to buy Bitcoin. BMGL, $1 billion. Nakamoto, $700 million. GameStop themselves, they just bought, I think, 4,710 Bitcoin this week. Okay, another four. I mean, the thousands of Bitcoin being bought by all of these treasuries are incredible. You got Metaplanet, they target 21,000 Bitcoin. You've got Jet King, who are stacking. SWC, CINGF, never heard of those two. They're stacking. H100 Group in Sweden, getting started. 21 billion. 21 will be investing billions. And then we have Asset and Strive, again, billions. And remember, only 450 are mined a day. And all of these companies are planning to stack hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin. Okay? The only way they can get their hands on it is if the retail people sell it to them. This is what's crazy. And it doesn't even include this one. Brazil, fintech company Melius are raising 26.45 million to buy more Bitcoin for its corporate treasury. Again, it's just nonstop. It's incessant. And after all the Bitcoin news I shared this weekend, like Pakistan and others setting up SPRs, the dominoes are falling faster than ever before. And shout out to Michael Saylor and the Bank of England. Anybody here from the UK? Say hi. This is from Michael Saylor. I can't say if it's true or not, but it was in this journal. Michael Saylor did say that Bank of England is on the brink of buying Bitcoin. Now, you could take this with a big piece of salt because this was made in response to, I think, a UK leader, Nigel Farage, I think is his name. And he said he believes UK central bank needs to embrace Bitcoin. Okay, now, he also said we are going to have a digital Bitcoin reserve in the Bank of England, and we're going to pass legislation that says no bank can close your bank account because you're trading in crypto. So I don't know how powerful this Farage guy is. I know he's currently not in power, but they're pretty big statements. So if anybody here knows what's happening in the UK, this could be good. And remember, the UK used to be the head of global financial services. This is where money began, where banking began, where the equivalent of venture capital began in the modern world, of course, not going back 2,000 years, etc. But it would be great for the UK to get that back. Anyway, we'll see if that happens. Now, I touched on this briefly yesterday, but $5.4 billion started hitting people's accounts on Friday, and it's going to all be distributed across Monday and Tuesday. So 3 days, 1 day is already down. And that money is going to go look for a home back in crypto. They're getting stable coins, and they'll be plowing that back into the market. So I do expect this also to pump up the markets again. And a lot of the people that had money on this platform was actually in the form of a thing called Solana. Now they'll probably try to get back on the Solana bus if they can. We'll see. And shout out to Florida. Florida just became the first state to propose a law to eliminate capital gains tax on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is a currency, deemed a currency, you shouldn't be able to tax it anyway. It's logical, at least in my mind. And Florida want to make gains on Bitcoin tax-free. And I think that would surely help the real estate market because they've had a lot of people leave Florida because you can't insure property there. And it makes it impossible to get a mortgage. And real estate prices were a little bit lofty. So prices are coming down like everything else. Everything mean reverts. And this could drive a lot of people back to the state with or without insurance on their homes. They can just rent condos instead. Anyway, we'll watch that carefully. That could be yet another domino if they were to turn their state into a tax-free Bitcoin state. I know a lot of Bitcoiners would pack their bags and go straight to Florida, or probably even leave Puerto Rico and go to Florida. Who knows? And we have some news as well regarding the Pectra upgrade, and it's maybe not such good news. And people, hope they take this right, but apparently the new Pectra upgrade feature has been enabled somehow to drain crypto from wallets with stolen private keys. This is EIP 7702, and it lets wallets act like smart contracts, which criminals use to automatically forward stolen funds. And over 100,000 smart contracts are tied to this activity already since the Pectra upgrade, showing how attackers are quickly adopting Ethereum's newest tools. This is not good. So hopefully the team at Ethereum can fix this because, as I always say, it takes a lifetime to make it and a second to lose it. So we'll see. And then a good one there. Or any altcoins still alive. Yeah, it's been Bitcoin season for quite a while. And here's some news regarding Mr. Farage is big in the UK, set up a reform party, which is growing in popularity with the truther community. Ooh, okay. So maybe if this guy can get into power, maybe he can help the UK get a Bitcoin reserve. Why not? They just print some of their British pounds and buy that Bitcoin, you know? Why not? And a little bit of other news too, which is kind of bizarre because I keep trying to get the solar prices and quotes. It's still super high, but solar panels prices are at an all-time low. So why are my quotes not low? I don't understand. Hopefully they'll come down soon though. But maybe with tariffs on Chinese products, because all these solar panels are apparently made in China, that may not be possible. Who knows? We'll see. And remember, this is another piece of good news. We're all living longer, apparently, globally on average, not necessarily in certain countries that have very poor diets. But the average life expectancy currently is 73.33 years. That's going to go to 81.88 years by 2102. So the way to prepare to live longer is to stack more. And the earlier you begin to invest, the better off you are. Remember that, everybody. So important. When you have time on your side, it's an incredible advantage. So embrace it. And don't be bouncing around from asset to asset and chasing pumps. Just buy a couple of solid things and just hold them for 10 or 20 years. You'll be blown away. As long as it's a winning asset, you'll be blown away by the compounding effect. Absolutely promise you that. And almost penultimate news, Japanese stocks saw a record 12 billion in weekly outflow. I bet you a lot of this is actually Metaplanet. It was a Metaplanet like tripled in a couple of days, and then it fell back down to earth just as fast. Again, mean reversion. But these Japanese stocks saw a $12 billion weekly outflow, the largest ever in history. Now, I'm not sure why. I know the yen and the bond market and their fiat has a whole bunch of problems, but this is flashing many warning signs. Maybe the Japanese are getting out of Japanese stocks and investing in American stocks or investing in gold or Bitcoin or I don't know what. But to add fuel to the fire as well, U.S. President announced a tariff hike on steel and aluminium, doubling rates from 25 to 50%, again, effective June 4th. Not sure if that has anything to do with Japan, but either way, very weird historical outflow. Maybe they're all FOMOing into Bitcoin. Wouldn't that be great? Actually, they could be doing that considering the success of Metaplanet. If you're sitting at home in Japan and you're looking at the stock markets and the best performing asset over the last 2 years, it's Metaplanet. So who knows? Anyway, another piece of news, which is shocking, is GDP, because we were speaking about Japan, and I thought this was pertinent. Poland, GDP per capita is nearly catching Japan. Not too long ago, Japan was one of the richest countries in the world. And that has really gone kind of sideways. Again, the rate of change is what's important. And shout out to everybody in Poland. They are now catching Japan, which used to be one of the richest countries in the world, and how things have changed. Again, they've been stagnant for a long time. Although it doesn't appear that way on the chart. Of course, fiat goes up, of course, as it debases. Like what you could buy in 1990 for $35,000 is a lot more than what you can buy today for $45,000. That's the important thing to take with this chart as well. But again, Poland is now coming up behind countries like Germany and Canada, etc. Who would have seen that coming? But remember, this is GDP per capita, and having open borders floods a lot of people. And I read somewhere today that something like 800, is it 800? A huge percentage anyway, nearly. I can't remember the exact numbers. I don't want to misquote, but one country nearly added 10% of their population. And this is a OECD nation just in a year. People walking in over the border. So when you have a lot of new people in your country and your GDP doesn't necessarily change, or you don't create more value, your GDP per capita falls down. So all those countries with open borders, like the US had, etc., GDP per capita is coming down. Those countries with closed borders, like Poland, GDP per capita is going up. So see who will have the last laugh in the future. And a warning too as well. There's a lot of records apparently leaked. Shout out to Acrobat as well. I just shared this before I went live. If you've been ignoring these pesky, suspicious login alerts in your inbox, it might be time to pay attention. This is from a crypto researcher called Jeremiah Fowler, and he discovered an unprotected online database with 184 million records, including email addresses, passwords, login links, stored in plain text. And this data is leaked across major platforms like Apple, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and even government and financial services. So the point of me saying this, expect all your information to be out there. Change your passwords, turn on 2FA, get a YubiKey, lock your security down. Very important. Hammer that home again. Very important. And shout out to James Wynn too. Unfortunately, over the last 10, 11 days, he lost $100 million. And just in the last week, over $17 million. And his account says he has $22 left. So, there's an old expression called easy come, easy go. But let this be a lesson to all of you. If you make life-changing money, take some chips off the table and park it somewhere safe. Don't be a hero. And don't try turn, a couple $100,000 into 1 million, into 100 million, into $1 billion. That's called greed, and greed kills, or it's called ego. But the market makers will hunt you down. Okay, be very careful with this. And I have to finish. Much respect to James, but meme du jour, winning is the new meme flying around. Hope he's okay. Hope he lives to fight another day and has better financial risk management rules in place, everybody. So hope you like the video. Thank you all for coming. That was what happened this week. Crazy week. And yes, I do believe things are looking bullish, not because of retail investor, but because of treasuries and institutions and sovereigns and pension funds. That will have a huge impact on Bitcoin. Thank you, TND, Tesla, Sean D, everybody else out there. Take care. Yeah, and best wishes as well to James Wynn. Stay healthy and live to fight another day. And take it handy next time, as they say. Bye, everybody.